Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on Joyasonyelive this evening. Today, we are taking the conversation to CSO's kick as NLC suspends the strike action. Discordant tones continue to react to the suspended strike action to protest the removal of petrol subsidy by organized labor. This was after a meeting was held with the NLC, the TUC, with government representatives. The planned strike that was scheduled to hold today, that's the 7th of June, did not proceed as planned. In another development, the chairman board of trustees of the APC Professionals Forum, Malam Isa Yuguda, organized a press conference appreciating the organized labor for shelving their strike action while urging Nigerians once again to trust the President Bola Tinubu's administration as he would keep to the terms of his renewed hope agenda. That's interesting. That's some of the things we'll be discussing on today's edition of Joyasonyelive. And I have in the studio my guest this evening, Comrade Duke Alamboye. He is the National Secretary, Nigerian Youth Organization. He's also the National Coordinator of the Green Assembly Initiative. It's so good to have you join us this evening.
Thank you very much once more for having me to your program. Thank you very much.
It's always interesting to have you. You are very passionate about most of the things you say. I do not agree with most of them, but let's see how today's edition goes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it promises to be interesting. We'll go for a short break now and return to discuss in depthly. We'll be right back. Welcome back from that short break. Like I said earlier, we're talking about the CSOs as they kick, as NLC suspends the strike action. According to them, the president needs time to put together the palliatives that he had promised. And for some reason, the NLC, the TUC, and other organized labor organizations, had confidence in President Muhammad Buhari. Comrade Duke Alamboye, I saw the headlines on some of the dailies this morning, and some people went, the reactions that followed that was not positive, because it was quoted that the NLC is urging Nigerians to trust the process. And in the same vein, the APC Professionals Forum, the BOT chairman especially, Malam Isa Yuguda, is saying trust the process. And that's what a lot of people have been hammering. However, we all still have discordant tones, people who do not necessarily agree with all of that. Where are you, first of all, in the entire hula-baloo? Fuel subsidy regime ending or continuing?
Well, fuel subsidy regime ending, that is where I am. And most importantly, I want to still use this opportunity to thank the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, and mostly to him. So I've gotten the will and ability to take off this burden from us. It is one powerful instrument that has bedeviled our country in terms of expenditures. Thank you. In terms of national expenditures, and almost, if you also look, almost all the candidates during the campaign had promised that it is not good. It's a cankerworm to the economy, and almost all of them in different interviews and when they grant interviews agree that it should be taken away. And today, immediately the president came into power, it took it away. What people argued, what's the resultant effect in the country wasn't positive. However, we saw the marketers began to hoard the products and making Nigerians starving Nigerians of the product. That is number one. Number two, there was also an immediate increment in the prices of the products. Be it as it may, people began to have negative impression about the government. Are these the promises? Wouldn't the present government at cushion effect before announcing that. I support that movement because if you look at successive regimes, apart from Jonathan, who took the bold step to remove it and it was cautioned back, this is the first time he's also taking a bold step to remove it. They've always discussed in an attempt to removing it, but we saw those discussions never saw the day of the light. The light of the day. So this time around, he had come up with another technique to say, no, we all know that this is not good. Let's remove. When we remove, we'll come on board. And at least I can say within 2, 3, 4 days that they removed the subsidy, Nigerians saw, the government and stakeholders and players in the field now saw lacunas, saw the effects, the positive and all of that. And now today, they are sitting down to discuss. So it was also not fair that NLC would have gone into a quick reaction by going to the street to contest or to protest or to tool down services. I also want to appreciate them that they quickly understood that it wasn't the right instrument to use. The government needs time to settle down these issues and then bring that up. Today again, we've seen a very fantastic man, the former governor of Bauchi State, Malam Isa Yuguda, has also come up with his NGO or professionals, what they call the APC Professionals Forum. They've gathered themselves to come and give a voice to this, and these are the kind of things we want to see. When government take actions, we want to see people get to the nitty-gritty of it, analyze it properly, and see how they can provide solutions other than escalating the issues.
Do you think it was very bold of them? I mean, the APC Professionals Forum, yes, the group, and Malam Yuguda himself. Do you, yes, think it was bold of them? Because this is very dicey. Yes. We are seeing people are indeed suffering that you cannot take away from this conversation. Yeah. However, it's very dicey to stick your head out and say, you know what, even though the whole world, there are some discordant to, yes, dissenting voices, yes, I am saying that I support the president in this. Is it something you would see as the administration goes on? Yes,
we all know the antecedents of Isa Yaguda, Isa himself, that is while he was governor. So for somebody of that character to come up to join voice with his organization, to making us understand that this government meant well when they removed subsidy, and this government is going to mean well in trashing out the issues associated, the effect associated with the pull off of the subsidy. Like, government is going to sit and put heads together and profile very quick mid-term and the long-term solutions to this effect. We heard the president also saying that in their conference. We also heard that they are going to look into minimum wage, state review mechanisms, and everything that they are going to do in no fewer time when the Dangote refinery, which is being commissioned, begins to also produce all these things drastically. The price for those consumables will reduce. So I think Isa Yaguda had done this in the right faith, and looking at his antecedents, he has confidence in the president. They've worked together, and he's also putting voice to say that, look, we are sure of where this president is taking us to. Let's be calm, keep normalcy, and with time we'll overcome this.
Okay, so in the press release, Malam Isa had also said that we should trust the process. This provides the fact that the president was able to end the subsidy regime and stand by it. Provides clear insight into his hands-on approach of bringing governance to the center. But a lot of people are saying that with what is going on, we are expecting the president should expedite action when it comes to those palliatives that should be on ground.
Yes.
We expect that we should also see, especially the transport sector, we need some sort of intervention, and that's the word I'm trying to remember. Yes. Intervention in that regard as fast as possible.
Yes.
Like I mentioned earlier, we have businesses being stifled because how much can you sustain? How much can you charge people if you have to factor in the challenges that is also, that you have to go through if you have to put the burden on the people, and businesses are stifled. We've not heard heard anything very substantial from the presidency. And yet we're seeing Malam Issa Yuguda hailing the president basically for his hands-on approach. Would you agree?
Yes, on that, I agree with him also to some extent. And to some certain extent, I want to also say that, yes, we need to expedite actions on palliative and interventions. I agree to that, but we can see that spontaneously the federal government didn't relax. They called the NLC, and for the NLC that we know that very stiff in their resolutions to have tooled down their actions, I think there are negotiations, there are discussions that have been put before them that seem progressive. So we should be calm. These things concerns transactions. My worry was the quick increment, and my worry was also that why would even NNPC be the body to raise the bar immediately? But in some quarters they've said that is they are now limited, so they have the right to also do that to project,
and immediately the president says that it means indeed the deregulation can begin.
So Nigerians, some of us are not really projecting our minds to the growth of our country, so we want to see where it is not working well and promote it. If not, I was meant to understood that even the old products they are having is paid for till end of June. But however it is, let us leave the issues and dive into solutions. That is where I think Issa Yaguda is laying his claim on. Is laying his claims on, and I think it is very apt at the point. The government are deliberately, in fact, we shouldn't leave this aspect of interventions for only the federal government. The state governments can also do certain things in their states. Like recently, the Edo State governor, kudos to him, he has been able to, at least as small as it is, add something to the minimum wage to cushion those effects. In one other state again,
Kwara State
now we've told that, okay, they are also checking it in the short term. What do we do? And they've resorted to say that the civil servants and other private workers should at least do 3 times out of the 5 days for jobs, so that it can cushion those cushion and balance those effects of the price increment. So this responsibility shouldn't be left in the hands of federal government again. I also want to urge federal government to take a lift from what is some of the state government are proactively doing. Of course, very seriously, the minimum wage should be quickly looked at so that people can begin to have little effect of what is happening. Then of course I can also agree, in the nationwide we can say, why even people going to, in some countries now, modern countries now, like in my office now, for the past how many days we do our meetings online, we do everything online. So this, and that's where Nigeria should talk. This is the way one of the ways I think they should also go into, in as much as they are doing that, they should act within the players and see how they can resort to reducing the price. I can tell you it's not easy. I bought a 20,000 naira fuel, and I couldn't drive away from the filling station for some few
Were
seconds.
You about to fight?
No, I was cold. 10,000, 11,000 naira would have filled my tank, but 20,000 naira, they didn't even move. So I was a little bit, cold. That is, to me, that can even afford 20,000 naira to buy fuel. To talk of people that do not even have car, and commuters have to increase.
And there's attendance effect, because if that happens, we are seeing it's cascading to the prices in commodities.
When Nigerians at the other side also say, they should expedite quick action, I want to agree to that. And then the likes of Issa Yuguda should also, they are close to government, should also advise it, as much as they've come to protect the interests of government and giving us the confidence to rely on what government is doing. I think they should take a kickback from the public to also reaching out to government to say, look, in all of this you're doing, we really need quick interventions. Companies are lying down. Companies are threatening to downsize their workforce, all because they have to quickly generate additional funds to ensure that their staff are not getting tired of coming to work.
Okay. Yeah. Now, for those who cannot see the gains, the benefits to ending the fuel subsidy regime, who are still kicking, for it now somewhat looks like it's still a political season. I don't know if you can feel the air. The air is still do we support the president? Should we not support the president? It still brings back that tension I felt in the build-up of the elections. What would be your thought, your response to such people who still do not see the benefits of fuel subsidy being removed and not trusting government?
It's unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Trust for government is huge and wide. In time past, we've seen government say something and do another. So you will not really blame the dissenting voices as to what the confidence. I was even having an interaction with someone. He was even asking me if governments had spent as much as 7-8 trillion to subsidize fuel. Now that they are stopping it, what are we even sure that? How are we even sure that they are going to get those kickbacks into meaningful projection or projects and all of that? So this is where Nigerians have lost their confidence. So that's why I said the government, the federal government, have a lot to do to build back those confidence of the people, so that they can rely on government whenever a pronouncement is made. There's one thing to remove subsidy. There's one thing to make Nigerians feel the less effect of the removal, and there's one thing to also intervene quickly so that it is not showing in it. And there's the last one. What are we going to do? What productive evidence that people can see of the removal of subsidy?
One of it is that the Trade Union Congress, that's the TUC, is asking for 200,000 naira as minimum wage. Do you agree?
Yes.
Is that something Nigeria can afford?
Yes. This is a projection, and I think it's not a benchmark. It's a benchmark rather. I don't think it's sacrosanct. Yeah, it's cast to the wall. Understand? What they are trying to say is still the intervention. What they are trying to say realistically in that extent is still the minimum wage of people should increase. There's no way. I'm not saying the fuel prices decreasing to 300 or 400 or 200. Even if it does, it's still an additive. So what they are using this opportunity to call on the present government is also to see to how they can increase the minimum wage. I thank the Edo State governor once more again. He understands what the effect this will bring, and he has stepped up his own minimum wage a little, just to still see how people will not
suffer too much.
And then supply of the product should still be in abundance. What will worsen this again is when there are no supplies, you begin to see panic buying, and you know what that entails. So,
but that's the regulation. Everybody now has an opportunity to go source for this
I think there's a lot the federal government need to do a lot to quickly within time to tackle these actions they've taken, which is positive, but the resultant effect shouldn't go negative, so that the political differences, I'm coming to the second line of your question, the political differences and bias that is being perceived. Some quarters, they are still the cases are still in court, the tribunals are still on. So it's almost going to, whatever the federal government does wrong now, the Tinubu administration does wrong now, will be used as a nail to nail as statement words from the tribunal. We saw the presidential candidate of Labour Party talking about it, even though he agreed that it should be removed. He was vehemently saying that he would have done it in a different style, where they wouldn't have felt the impact this way. But I kept wondering, successive presidents have sat down to have discussion. These are Buddhas, these are very strong men in the country, that if time is not taken, by the time you go through such discussion with them, the ability to pull down the presidency is there. We've seen it happen.
Exactly.
And the only man that could, without looking at their face, do it is this president. And he has said, okay, sorry, I've done it, let's sit down. What are we going to do? So instead of getting retrogressive about these issues, we want people to contribute positively, not nailing the matter to spoil or derail the minds of meaningful Nigeria that want to really see the reason why these things are removed. Bring positivity to the nation's development. Whether you are in court, whether you are in the tribunal, this is what you have also, almost all of them, promised that they were going to remove subsidy. He has removed it. The pattern, the methodology that will be applied doesn't matter. We also need their contribution in the quarters. Nigeria belongs to all of us. They are also still going to buy the fuel at the same price. When it reduces, they are still going to do that. If the tribunal removes it, they are still going to meet the same situation on ground. So they shouldn't excommunicate themselves from what is happening, rather to do meaningfully contributing to what is happening so that we can move our nation forward.
I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, in fact, on this platform, where the person was talking about the fact that the reason the government is having issues with fuel subsidy is because people are bloating the numbers. The statistics that are given for the consumption Nigerians have is way beyond what indeed Nigerians consume as PMS. And so instead, the loopholes should be covered, and that it is possible to cover the loopholes, but not take away fuel subsidy, as that will have a reverberating or ripple effect on every other thing. Commodities would skyrocket. There's the fear of inflation, and not to mention the attendant effects to that. But what's your thought? Is it possible that that loophole
is not possible? It's not possible. The government have tried to curtail it by even restricting the importation. You can see that in time past, only NNPC Limited have the right to import, and then every other dealer sub from NNPC. Even at that level, Nigerian, some of our leaders are settled with this responsibility, are so corrupt that it is now normal to practice corruption wherever they find themselves. I'm not going to see, and I'm not going to believe that we're going to have a perfect man to man NNPC. Don't forget that the oil industry is in the hands of the president. Even at that, we can see the level of corruption that goes on. So these people, the people that perpetrate this evil within that sector, are Nigerians, and we glorify them, we celebrate them, because they make lots of monies. They are our uncles, they are our aunties, they make lot of monies, and we go to take from them, and the courts even defend such people. So I think nobody should talk about managing or
shutting down
putting the same content in a new bottle. The best that should happen about subsidy is what has happened. What we should be discussing is how Nigerians are very used to this sort of things. People have moved on, irrespective of it is telling, but people have moved on. But government should not relax because people have moved on. The price is still very high, and it is not commensurating to people's earning. So therefore, these indices you've just mentioned, inflation, high rise in demands of high rise in purchase powers,
right,
commodity, those things will definitely come up. So that is why we are calling. That's why I support the Isa Yaguda's committee or organizations, yes, to calling Nigerians to be patient and urging government. One thing I did see them do is urging government to expedite action in the palliative and put it into short-term, medium and long-term solutions, so that it will begin to feeder out gradually, but that it needs an urgent attention. This is one, it's going to be a litmus test to the government, and Nigerians are seriously looking at what they will come out with in the near few
so in
days.
a nutshell, before we move away from this topic, I would like you to just tell us what those cushioning effects, those palliatives you would like to see. Are you one of the people for sharing 5,000 naira to 10 million homes, like the justification for the borrowing of the $800 million? Are you one of those people? What kind of palliatives would you like to see?
I think quickly that measures is not even right in my own opinion. How many people will you give 5,000 to cushion the effect? I think what should be done firstly is the workforce is greater in the country, and the workforce determines the purchasing power. So there should be an increment. First of all, government should check themselves and make an increment in minimum wage. It might not be 200. If it is 200, if the government can afford 200, in fact, the president, I'm sure, will do 16 years in office. But if you can make it something accommodating, the
if
minimum
you have
wage,
to suggest, what would be your suggestion? Because I'll hold you to it later.
Minimum wage should get to 100,000. Nigerians can afford it. Minimum wage should get to 100,000 naira, and then they can flush the system. There are so many things going on in the civil service. If they work on it, they will have a sizable civil service to cater for, and then that will give another opening for funds to be reserved in their hands. There is a lot going on, Joy, and I think it needs to look at the civil service, increase the minimum wage. Then also give rights, call for state governors. They should also have local interventions, provisions of intercity buses that will curtail, that will checkmate the prices of commuters. If we bring out all the coastal buses, ask state governors to also purchase intercity coastal buses and peg prices non-profitable or little margin of profit to those buses, it will checkmate the
effect of the removal.
Yes.
But before
so these are some of the things
I let you go, the 30,000 naira minimum wage. The 30,000 naira minimum wage that was accepted by former President Buhari had not even been gazetted in states, where some state governors tell you outrightly and brazenly that we cannot afford to pay minimum wage of 30,000 naira in our state, and nothing has been done. So while it is fantastic for the president and the federal government to be pressured to increase minimum wage, what are we doing in states? I mean, you just commended it.
Let me make you withdraw the statement pressured. We're in a situation and it's precarious, and this situation needs immediate solution. So it's simultaneous. The president knows that what he's doing is going to have an effect, so it should quickly look at those effects. This is what I say. Now, we saw the President Muhammad Buhari's administration that is not forceful. They are not in terms of execution, they were not strong. They're laid back. So I'm not seeing this government, with my perception now, I'm not seeing them act that way. I think they should quickly even appoint ministers so that they will begin to direct the affairs of things in the nation. You have to quickly call the governors, make them understand the situation. Federal government remits to them. They have revenues they generate internally, and other sources they make money. If it is not going to be possible, federal government will know what is possible, and then go through the legislation to make it legitimate. It becomes a working document. Other than forcing them or making them appeal or no appeal, federal government gives money, what they call administrations to states. States generate their revenues. The other means they get money through what they call interference in interventions. Partnering in one business or the other. If a state cannot pay a stipulated minimum wage, the federal government will know. So they should bring it to a balance where no state governor can insist on that. Attach it to legislative activities.
That brings to mind the fact that state governments have always relied on the allocation from the presidency. I mean, there's the security votes and others.
Yeah, exactly.
However, if you just let me land now. What would urge state governments to look inward? I was talking to somebody who said, go and look at the book of states and see the many revenue generating opportunities in each state, resources that these states have, that they have not harnessed it. What do you think this president can do that would, I don't know, champion it, incite them to look inwards, to generate more so that Nigerians can enjoy?
Potentials, yes. I agree with you. Every state in this country have their potentials. And this is why I am saying that exclusively the president should always see how states can be independent to some certain extent. That is not total reliance on what is coming from the national purse, but how to also opportunities. Not only opportunities to borrow. The only opportunities I see state government have and they partner with federal government is borrowing. We want to see visible, like I heard yesterday, the outgoing governor of Rivers State being very boastful that he's not owing any debt. He has not borrowed any money and is not indebted. You understand?
We will wait for the successor. I've heard that before, but we'll wait for his successor to look at the coffers and say, in truth, this is
he has said it. He has said it, and nobody has come to refute it. So I want to also give him the kudos.
Well, I'm still waiting. I'm one of those Nigerians that often
just for an example, this is how we want other states governors to go. They are less privileged states. Of course, I'm aware of that too. That you cannot compare to that of Rivers State, but you should be borrowing for productivity. You should be borrowing to enhance the growth of where you're governing. Is better than putting it into consumption values that will not return minimum benefits to your government. So this is where I want federal government to encourage the state governments. What are their potentials? Where do they want them to partner with them so that they can harness their internally generated revenue, so that they can also be brilliant enough to beat up the expectations of their citizens.
Okay, having said that, we'll move on from this conversation. We'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing the 10th Assembly leadership and how divided is the APC as to who would lead the 10th Assembly. We'll be right back. This is still Joyasonyelive. Welcome back from that break. This is still Joyasonyelive, and I still have in the studio with me Comrade Duke Alamboye, the National Secretary, Nigerian Youth Organization. He's also the National Coordinator, Green Assembly Initiative. We were discussing earlier on this as CSO's kick that the NLC and other organizations had pulled off or suspended the planned strike against the fuel subsidy removal. Well, we're moving on now to talk about the 10th Assembly. Seems like as ahead of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, it's no longer sure. A couple of weeks ago, it was almost sure that Senator Goodluck and Mr. Tajuddin, Honorable Tajuddin, that of the House of Representatives, had the backing of the APC. That doesn't seem the case at the moment. But where are we going with this? Are we going to see a dark horse at the 11th hour? That would be intriguing for some of us who will sit back and just look at what's going on. However, would that be good for our nation? That's what we'll be discussing with Comrade Duke Alamboye. I would just like you to respond to that. Are you expecting a dark horse? Like there are insinuations and speculations that the president, having endorsed Senator Goodluck and Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, is probably changing his mind. With all these speculations, where do you think it will go?
I think, yeah, it's necessary that the president makes a change of mind, because one of the issues that have been deviled the past administration, which is still of the APC, is that of a marginalization of certain zones or certain what have you. So people were so angry about that marginalization, where you see everything coming from the south. Most appointments went to the north, and people weren't happy about this. It has brought about lots of vices in our society. People calling for separation, people calling for fight, people, all sort of things that happen. So in forming his government, we want to see where they will be deliberate to ensure that there is this level of balance. If I was to even advise, and if I was to even allow the president to take side, first and foremost, it should have been so subtle. It would have used the instrument of lobby. People wouldn't have been able to know his stand, because the legislation belongs to federal government. It does not belong to the president alone. Secondly, he would have checked at the balance. President, we have three arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Presently, as we have today now, the two of the arms are already in the south. So it makes it very imperative and fair that, and for equity's sake, that the legislators should go to the north. In my own opinion, these are the ways we can balance. On that school of thought, I'd come to say, look, the CJN will soon, his tenure will soon expire. He is from the southwestern part of the country. The president is from the southwestern of the country. Nothing spoiled. What would happen, in my opinion, is that when his tenure expires, the southeast has also been crying foul. That same position for the judiciary should be taken to and be given to the eastern part of the country. So we expect this level of balance when they are thinking. Now, but to talk of it in a larger extent, we do not really see or have any conviction why the executive arm of government would always be interfering in the affairs of the legislation. The legislation is an entity of its own. It has its own workability. It is very much independent of its functions. We have successfully elected 109 senators in the country to represent senatorial zones in the country. So who becomes their leader? The activities or the duty of who becomes their leader is settled in their hands. They have the right to look at the directions.
If you were the national chairman of a political party, especially one that is now in the helms of affairs, would you have just sat here to say you are letting it go, allowing them
are you
saying that no, if you would just let me land, are you saying that you will not coordinate those who are ranking members, or maybe not ranking members, those who have interest to run for these positions? Remember that you get in a democratic setting such as ours, your bragging right is in how many people hold leadership positions within your party. Are you saying you would have sat back, you will not have a consensus, so that whoever you are fronting, should the opposition have a strong frontier as well? You will not do that? Is that what you're asking? Saying?
It amazes me when I hear questions like this.
What amazes you exactly?
Listen, once you're elected, you know more your responsibility and your loyalty is for the country.
To nation.
It's to the nation.
I asked a question you are avoiding. If you were the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, would you not have a consensus with senators within your political party?
I will not.
You would let it go and possibly get opposition takeover?
So can I answer now?
Yeah, I let you.
All the senators, it is sacrosanct that the majority of the senators, that's where the Senate president will come from. That is already given to party, and party have shown their strength. Right. All the senators of the APC are the property of the chairman. So I don't know why you want to place preference on one. When you place preference on one, it's natural that one would have a preferred candidate. And I still insist, there are ways you go about this, not an open endorsement of a candidate. It despises, it even reduces. Then what work would they be doing for election? Don't forget, they are not the only people they are not the only political party in the legislature. That one you're saying, it has nothing to do with, even if they are going to do that in their party at party level, that is party level. We're talking about national function. They are legislators, they are senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Right.
They have their in-house what they call rules and engagements. They alone can elect who becomes Senate president.
The APC
I'm coming. I'm coming. So therefore, their independence cannot be overemphasized. We have seen legislature in past that are rubber stamp, and this is because of things like this. People are encouraging the party will decide who becomes the legislature. After deciding who becomes the flag bearer in their political space, they come back to the national space again to determine who becomes Senate president. To determine who becomes which you condemn. I'm coming. Let me make my point. Which you condemn all these sort of things. So if I were APC chairman, if I was chairman of any political parties, it ends there. We can call our senators in house. We quietly and have a discussion. First of all, for unity's sake, first of all, for equity and nation building sake, what's our direction? And have that confinement, not coming to public to endorse, even without calling the attention of that senators, to say because you have a favorable senator, you endorse such senator to be Senate president. What feelings are you going to? Is that why the House is divided today? That is the similar act that made the House to be divided. So because now, there's supposed to be an action.
I have another
there's supposed to be an action. What there's supposed to be an action the party is supposed to take if even they want to intervene
Now you're talking about the APC, which is very interesting, but we also read in the papers how the oppositions had some coalition, you know, and had endorsed candidates, right?
Which opposition?
The opposition within the
opposition, members.
Yes,
that is what I'm saying.
Elect.
Not the party. Senators of opposition parties.
They do not have an umbrella. We have over
no, you're getting it wrong. You never said that.
You will let me.
Sorry, you never told me that. Your question wasn't that. If all APC senators will gather themselves and have a consensus candidate.
You're talking about the intervention by the APC.
Sorry. You asked a question about. They don't need any intervention. They don't need it.
And if you would let me land now.
They don't need it. They don't want to be there.
But when the opposition come together, because ideally they do not have the same
opposition members, they can come together.
Yes, but that is okay. But then the political party that is in the hem of affairs,
they are two different things.
That wants their ideology to reverberate.
Which of the APC candidates?
I am not holding forth for any political party.
I understand that.
Yes, but if you just let me land, I'm just saying this is the politics we have come to learn in Nigeria. I'm saying that you are the APC national chairman. You have the ideology and set down goals and blueprints of the political party, and you have a president that is the executive, right? And then in the legislatures, who would ensure that whatever policies you bring, it's in their hands? Are you saying you will not want to ensure there's a better synergy between the executive arm and the legislative? Is that what you're saying? You will fold your hands like you're folding right now to say, oh no, they all enjoy some level of independence. Is that what you're telling me?
Which of the APC senators is an Escobar? Which of the APC senators is an exclusive? Which of them that is not owned by the party? Which of them that didn't come through the party? What I'm saying is different. See, if all APC Senate members, the senators, had gone home to bring a consensus candidate, they have done their best, because these are the people that can only sit in the chamber for that election. Now, other political parties members, Senate members, have grouped themselves wanting to support a candidate. That is the order.
Now what happened?
Sorry, can I answer the question?
What happened? Because that's exactly what is going on.
No, that's not what is going on. What is going on here is the president and the APC. In fact, let me differentiate it rightly. The president is endorsing a candidate. They didn't only zone, they micro zone, they appointed a candidate.
Appointed.
It's an appointment.
No, that's not.
It's a baptism. Right. They baptized a candidate.
Maybe endorsed, then baptized.
To the detriment of every other senators, APC senators in the House. They were not aware. So therefore, this chairman of the APC came up to tell us that that was an error, because they've not been able to. They didn't go round well to that, which is very correct. I'm saying in a minimal concession that they must even interfere. What they would have done, or what is necessary, what is permissible in a modern democracy where we want equity to reign, is you allow the senators. They are not, they are all children based in APC. So I don't know who is going to have the more interest of APC other than the other in the senatorial position. So therefore, what is supposed to be obtainable is you allow. You can give an advisory, play an advisory role to the senators. If they cannot even come with a consensus candidate, they should run. It is statutory that one of them running will win because they are majority. So that why did they use the language? That is the beauty of democracy.
Oh, of course, that's the beauty of democracy.
The ability to allow them franchise their vote.
Yes.
Why did they apply the language lobby in the legislature? You talk to your fellow members, convince them. Not talking to the executive.
Irrespective of the lobbying, we didn't.
Not talking to the executive.
We have a G6.
Not talking to the judiciary. Right. You are talking to your members. 109 members will sit down and decide who becomes the Senate president. It shouldn't be a function of anybody except.
If you have to suggest, to the APC what to do, because at the moment there is a G6, a group of 6 that are not bulging. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. Now, if you have to suggest, because it seems like the APC, we don't know, I'm just saying, if it continues this way, they might lose out completely, because if they have the G6, and if you include the Senator Godswill Akpabio and the Tajuddin Abbas, that's the G7 within the APC itself. So do you think they will still hold forth? And do you think the opposition parties within the legislature
let me inform you
are also bracing up for this?
Let me inform you. The who becomes the Senate president comes from the majority. So as it is sacrosanct, it is firm, it can't change that. An APC senator will emerge. That's why you're not seeing any political party contesting for
but
it.
I just told you
So therefore, if even, I don't know how many they are in the Senate, if even all of them
in the Senate, 109.
No, I don't know the proportion of members for the APC. And for instance, that all the APC senators are running for the Senate presidency, one will win. That is the beauty. The ability to have the independence, the ability for everybody contesting that position to talk to their members. Members here is not APC. Members here means the whole house, 109. Talking to them, convincing them why you should lead them. That is the beauty of democracy. That is the only time they will see a Senate president emerging for the sake of good policy, for the sake of every APC senator have the blueprint of this administration.
Right.
There is none that will do better than the other. They have their orders in the house. They have their rules and their ethics in the house. So we should allow them. The interference is just not necessary and shouldn't be accommodated. They are men of integrity and capacity, and that's why the people have voted, Nigerians have voted them to be in that hollow chambers. So they must sit down, thoroughly check the abilities and capabilities of people contesting for that position, and ensure that they come up with a Senate president so that they can exercise their oversight functions. When we allow the executive to always baptize candidates that should be Senate president, we see contrary, we see a legislation that does not give us good laws, that dance to the whips and caprices of the president, the government, whether they are doing it right or wrong. Let me take you quickly back. What happened to the ninth in the legislation as they are going out? What they call ways and means. Who challenged it? How did they come about it? A whooping sum of about 22.7 million was cutted out of the national coffers. Who's checkmate it? Who will act as an oversight function on those things? These are what we are saying, and that is because he was bankrolled, he was brought in by the same executive.
Allegedly, because if I ask you now how you got to know he was bankrolled or with evidence, you will be unable to answer. So you still do not have the responses to that. But if you have to suggest to how we can see the sanity within the APC in the race to the 10th Assembly.
There is sanity. When you use that language, there's sanity. There is sanity.
There's a tussle.
The tussle.
There is a G6 meeting going on. And
the tussle is necessary.
No, like you are.
APC is not National Assembly. So anytime you mention APC, it saddens me.
I am mentioning APC because my program today, I am directing it to the tussle within the APC. I'm not talking about other political parties.
The tussle, I would have said, if you say there is a tussle in APC, I'm not aware there's any election going on in APC. What I'm aware of,
to be. In fact, it's one worse than election.
What I'm aware that is going on is
House of Assembly members attacking each other.
A Senate president and speaker will be elected by their members. Because of that, aspirants or candidates are lobbying their fellow members. That is what the statement should be. And that is the advice I'm giving to the APC. They should stay away from, the leadership of the APC should stay away from the affairs of the Senate. Allow them to get the right leader for themselves. They are all properties and sound-minded persons of the APC. So they should allow them concentrate and choose who becomes their Senate president. The whole world will see, and then it will be more appreciable. And that person will now know that he has a duty to serve the country, not to serve his party.
Comrade Duke Alamboye, National Coordinator, Green Assembly Initiative, and the National Secretary, Nigerian Youth Organization. Thank you for being part of Joyasonyelive this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's always interesting with you, and I hope to see you some other time.
I'm always available, Joy. I'm always available to crack it up with you.
Well, that was an interesting one. This is still Joyasonye, although we have to roll the curtains on at this moment. But we'll be back tomorrow with so much more. My name is Joyasonye. Do have a wonderful evening.